Hey everyone, welcome back to Reptile Rendezvous. I'm your host, Alex and all her animals, and today we have a totally awesome guest joining us. You're in for a treat because we're diving into the fascinating world of turtles again. So today I'm thrilled to announce our guest, introduce him, Greg from Greg's Turtle Haven. Greg is not just a turtle enthusiast, he's a dedicated conservationist, educator and advocate for these amazing creatures. So if you've ever wondered about turtles, their habitats, or how we can help protect them, then you are in the right place. So let's get into it. Greg, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm doing good. A little sleep deprived from the baby being up all night, but I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, sleep deprivation is the worst. You just get to the point where you just think, how am I functioning right now? How am I just going? How have I not gone completely mad? I guess if you're mad to start with, you haven't got much. There's a low bar. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start? I know Greg's Turtle Haven is not like everything. What inspired you to do what you do?
I mean, probably just having a lifetime just surrounded by turtles and animals and reptiles ever since I was 6 or 7, probably having pet turtles and growing up in Florida and everything that just surrounded where I lived, whether it was gopher tortoises or box turtles or cooters, sliders, soft shells, snapping turtles, snakes. I mean, there was just the typical kind of Florida stuff. And so there wasn't, for years, there wasn't a lot of other little kids to play with. It was just me and my brother and some field guides. And we would just kind of go out and find stuff. And then when I moved up to Georgia, when I was like a teenager, things were a little bit harder to find, but it was also just different. You went from like South Florida that's flat and palmettos and kind of not a lot of places for stuff to hide. And then you get into where I live around Atlanta, and it's called the Piedmont region, and it's got a lot of hills and valleys and deciduous trees and rocky creeks and stuff like that. So it was just a total change. And I just got really into kind of doing the same thing I'd been doing, trying to find things, but it was a whole different group of reptiles, amphibians and stuff like that. So just kind of always being into it. And then also, like I said, having stuff at home as pets or whatever too. I think having pets, you're literally surrounded by them. So I think that kind of constantly creates the desire to know more about that stuff and to stay more like invested in it.
Yeah. So what first sparked your interest in the alligator snapping turtles, and how did you end up focusing your career on them?
I think going back to what I just said, I mean, I had those field guides, and so they were like Peterson field guides to the southeastern US. And so obviously I was more into turtles than everything else. And so there was like the page that had like I think it was like snapping turtles at the top and maybe the sea turtles at the bottom. It's kind of a weird thing. They shared the same page, but we had Florida snapping turtles in the part of Florida I was at, but we were too far south for the alligator snappers on the East Coast. And I went looking, and you really wanted to see a wild alligator snapper, but it was out of range. And so I'd always been really into them and looked at photos of them, and they just looked incredible. And you can look and you can find all these old photos of them and guys holding them up, and they're 165 pounds and so impressive. And at one point I got like some little baby ones and had captives for, I mean, better part of a decade and a half, I think, from being young to being into my mid-20s, I think. Had some captive alligator snappers, and even then, like seeing just how different they were from common snapping turtles, and really a lot of other turtles. They hide out during the day. They're not a big fan of the sun as opposed to most turtles, and they like to come out at night. And at night, their personality is totally different than it is during the day. They just Yeah, they were endlessly fascinating. So getting to finally the point where I was able to find them in the wild. And also the first ones I found in the wild, it was in like an unexpected place. It was in a place that I had found a hatchling in a place where I was there just looking at other stuff, snakes and miscellaneous
it's
other
usually
turtles.
The way, isn't it? When you're looking for them, you won't see them.
Exactly.
But when when it's always like an accidental stumble across them, which is better, I guess, because if you're looking for them, then you're on that. But then if it's just completely a surprise, that's a great feeling.
It was exactly that, because I was just sitting down and I God, I don't know if I was messing with my phone or I just looked over and I saw this little turtle climb up a rock underwater. I was like, oh, is that a little musk turtle? And I got a little closer and I was like, oh, it's a little common snapper. And then it saw me and it took off and it was running across the bottom and I like scooped it up. And I was, I just pick it up and I was like, this is not a common snapper. I flip it over and look at it and I'm like, this is an alligator snapper. I'm like, what is this doing? So then I looked it up and the place I was in ends up draining into the Flint River, which is a very, well-known river for alligator snapping turtles. It's like, oh, this makes total sense. And it was funny because they hatch in the fall and this was like late October. So
Yeah.
I had found a hatchling and it's funny because I took a photo of it and this was in the early days of like Instagram. And so like everything was all about filters and stuff. And I also, Instagram started
when you look back,
off,
it's so cringy. And you're just like, that would have been such a great photo if it wasn't ruined by some
dude, it was so
filter.
bad because
at the time it seemed it was cool.
Yeah, it was, Instagram was iPhone only and I had an Android. So Android had like their fake version of Instagram and that's what I took the photo through. And so it put this horrible filter on there. And so I don't even have like a good photo of it, and I let it go.
That's what I mean. Yeah, you look back and
it lit this spark because I was like, I'm gonna come back and find more. And then it just got cold, and then it was like winter, so I had like months and months of waiting and planning. And I think it was
literally
like
what I said. When you plan it, when you try and look for them, they're just like, no.
Yeah, and I went back the following April and got 2 in one day though. I mean, I went like it was the very best day in April. The temperatures were right. And I got like a hand-sized one. And then I was walking back and I was like, I need to get like a good photo of this thing. So I had it with me and I was walking and then I look at the bank and there's just this like yellow head sticking out of a like tree root. And ended up catching, 2 of them. So I got like an adult female and a small juvenile. So obviously with snapping turtles, you have your common snapping turtles and you have your alligator snapping turtles. And with your common snappers, you have basically the Calidra serpentina. And I think full scientific name would be Calidra serpentina. And that's the common snapping turtle that's found across most of the US. I think all the way as far west as Colorado or something like that. As far east and north as Nova Scotia. As far south as South Florida. And then there's a Central American snapping turtle, which is Calidris. No, if I'm going in geographic ADHD, I've got to like be picky about how I say it. The Mexican snapping turtle, which is the next south one, would be Calidra serpentina rossignani. And then the Central American snapping turtle would be Calidra serpentina acutyrostris. And they're all slightly different. You get into things like a little bit of shell shape difference, a little bit of skull difference, and some differences in tubercles on the skin, things like that. And then when you go to the alligator snapping turtles, you have 3 that are. I was
going to say that was one of my questions as well, but continue and then we'll go on to that.
So with the alligator snapping turtles, you have 3 generally accepted species, and you have the Western snapping turtle, which is Macrocheles taminkii. And that's going to go from like Texas all the way to Alabama. And then you have the Apalachicola alligator snapping turtle, and that's going to go from the Chattahoochee drainage of Alabama all the way over to the Flint River in Georgia, east to west, or that's actually west to east. And then you're going to have north to south, Flint River and Chattahoochee River drain down. They meet at Lake Seminole, and then bottom of Lake Seminole is the Apalachicola River, and everything that's in that basin. It's going to be the Apalachicola alligator snappers, and that's Macrocheles apalachicola. And then the Suwannee alligator snapping turtle, just like its name says, is in the Suwannee River drainage in South Georgia and northern Florida. Macrocheles suwanniensis, and that's the one that I do my work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife when we survey those and do mark recapture. And then the difference is your Macrocheles taminkii, your westerns, tend to be a little flatter. Their jaws and their head are a little bit more elongate and narrow. Your Macrocheles apalachicola, big cube-shaped head, massive head that they can't even pull it under the edge of the shell. It kind of sticks out like a big head turtle. And then really wide jaw surfaces because they eat a lot of mollusks. So they develop those plates in their jaws like map turtles and diamondback terrapins and loggerhead musk turtles. And then your Swanee alligator snappers, big carapace with huge marginals going around the outside. Their main thing that they use to diagnose the species is the lunate caudal notch. So it's over the tail. It's going to have this big, wide C shape. It varies a little bit in shape, but for the most part, it's going to be a C shape over the tail. And then a lot of them turn, like a really nice, golden yellow as adults.
I think a lot of people only think that there's only 2 alligator in the common. I was telling a friend about this the other day. She was like, and what are the others? And I was basically just explaining it. They deserve so much more recognition than they get. They really do. They're just amazing creatures. So the unique hunting technique, which I've seen in real life, and it's really cool.
So they're the only turtles, and might even be maybe the only reptile with a lingual lure. So that's having a lure that's attached to the bottom of the mouth, and they wiggle it, and it essentially looks like a worm. This is primarily used for the young ones. When they hatch out, it's a bright red. And when you find them in the wild, the hatchlings are always in shallow water or at the base of trees, always where there's a fish called a gambusia, the mosquito fish. And they swim around and they do just like their name says, they eat mosquitoes. And so that little worm tongue on the little alligator snappers looks like a little mosquito larva. And so they'll use that to get through that delicate period in their life where essentially they're a snack for every animal in the river, because they're so small and their shell is soft and they need to grow as quickly as they can. And alligator snappers are a slow growing species. So if they have the ability to 24/7 just sit and lure and bring food to them, they're going to have a better shot. By the time they're 10 pounds, they're still using the lure, but they're also learning to forage and find things. Where I live, they make this transition where they go from using the lure and eating a lot of fish to starting to forage and starting to eat things like clams and snails and mussels and crayfish, harder things. And then by the time they're adults, come out of their deep hole and they go up in shallow water and just dig the bottom and pull clams up and crush them and eat them. And that's essentially, where I'm at, that's all they're doing. And then you go to like Louisiana and they're eating anything they come across. But the neat thing is they will still use their lure throughout life, even though by the time they're 70 or 100 pounds, that huge head with a worm in there, most fish aren't going to fall for that. I know what that is, man.
Oh, I love them. They're great. We did touch upon this briefly. Common misconceptions.
A lot of people, they see the mouth open and the sharp jaws and the giant claws, and they think that they're dangerous or aggressive, and they're just doing what any other animal would do if some hairless monkey yanked them out of the river. They're trying to protect themselves, and they don't have any protection essentially on the bottom of them, and they're not quick on land, and they need to be able to defend themselves. What's the best tool that they have? They have their jaws, and then right behind that is their claws. But in the water, you can snorkel right up to them. You can touch them on the face and all kinds of stuff, and they'll just sit there or just try to walk away across the bottom. I think there's a misconception that they're dangerous. They're not really dangerous at all. You really have to botch it to get hurt by one. There's other misconceptions about other turtles and tortoises. Some people think they shed their shells. And I think that's because sometimes you go hiking and you find an old box turtle shell in the woods.
So many people don't realize that their whole exoskeleton is within and attached. When you tell people that and you show them a picture of it, they're like, wow, I didn't know that. Another one I think is that they can put their heads all the way in.
Common snappers can get their head further into the shell, but the alligator snappers, it's the shape of the skull and the opening for the shell and the way the neck draws in. They don't really have the ability to pull their head in.
I think that's probably due to cartoons though, because in cartoons they kind of
yeah.
I don't know where that came from. I don't know. Someone just obviously thought that was a good idea, even though it's not actually accurate. And then that's just
those cartoons. Maybe it's funnier or something.
I suppose there's only box turtles are cool. They're cool little guys. There's a picture of one of them in the background, actually.
There's a 3-toed box turtle.
That wasn't one of mine, unfortunately. There's so many animals and like reptiles that deserve so much more recognition and education. We were talking about, me and David were talking about like crocodiles and the reputation that they have versus what they're actually like, and the differences between how dangerous people think they are versus how dangerous they actually are. The differences between them on land and them in water, because people think they're going to chase you. I know you could most definitely outrun them. In the water, you don't stand a chance, but the likelihood that they're actually going to attack you is so low unless they're hungry. or you really have to annoy them.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say is the difference is knowledge. When we do our trapping, the river that we're in, it's full of alligators. We hardly ever see them because they see us and they just want to be somewhere else. And then when they do,
that's what people don't realize. They're usually just going to leave you alone.
As long as you're not in an area that's either a mother with eggs or a big male during the breeding season where he's defending territory, you're fine. And alligators especially, they really don't want to be around us. And then if they do, it's because somebody fed them. Feeding an alligator is the only thing that really makes them a dangerous animal, because now they've just associated people with food. And if they're trying to lean on that too heavy, they get desperate and they want to eat. But we're setting our traps, and it's funny because we'll set a trap and then look over and we see an alligator, and we're not worried about being attacked. We're worried about, like, is he going to be in our trap the next morning and either tear up our trap or eat up our time the next day trying to check traps. So, but it's neat to see them because they're very intelligent, and it's fun to watch them try and figure out what we're doing. And all animals have different personalities. Some alligators are just gone as soon as we're there. And then some of them go and they find a safe spot and then they just watch us and observe us, same as we would do with them. And it's really cool. And the biggest thing with every animal is just knowledge of what they are. And the best thing as far as being able to assess, those kind of situations.
That's another reason why I like getting people on the podcast that have specific areas, and then I can help people. Or the same with crocodiles. That's why I've got David White come on, because to tell us the facts about them and what they're really like and the misconceptions, and help them not to make judgments, helping to educate people and understand what they're really like versus any false information or stigmas that they have surrounding them. Because it's interesting because how that's actually a thing, because if they can know enough about the stigmas, then it's all about the sources of information, isn't it? So hopefully that's why I like to help promote the conservation and education, because at the end of the day, they're living creatures. They're the same as us. They just want to live their life and not get in harm's way. And we owe it to them to respect them enough to just let them be.
Exactly. They didn't ask for us to be there.
Exactly. And we're building with crocodiles, especially, we're building on the roots and the territory that they've been used to going along for so long. And then we go, why are they? And it's like, we have to be aware of these things and just help people understand that the first thought, that didn't want to come out of my mouth then. The first thought, I'm not going to even try and say it again, shouldn't be, oh, I need to defend myself, I need to hurt this animal. It's just, okay, it's probably just going to leave me alone, so I'll just continue what I'm doing. And
I came in and out
passionately ranting about something, the Wi-Fi's like, shut up, Alex.
And then it freezes and you're
and you just gotta just sit there politely and you're just like, Alex, yes, that's a great story. Well, I guess talking about education, how does the education factor in your conservation, preservation efforts, and what initiatives are you currently involved in?
Education is a huge thing. I always wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't want to have to go to school to do it. So obviously that never happened. But I feel like education is probably, just like when we were talking about the crocodilians, when you have knowledge of something, it obviously opens your mind and your perspective to maybe the reality of what something actually is. So I do education, obviously, through social media, things like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever other ones I'm on. But I also go and do in-person education, whether that's, a kid that's really into turtles and I go do, his or her birthday. I go do, Boy Scouts, or, I go do an event at a state park where they have a festival every year. My job is to not just educate, because I don't want to just be talking at people. I know, like when I was a kid in school, I hate it when people talked at me, like getting to actually see things or be hands-on, means so much more when it's tactile. So, obviously I bring, some of my animals with me. For a lot of people, turtles and tortoises are a little boring. So like I mix it up. I always have like some snakes or an alligator or something else with me. And it gives me the ability to, reach people in a very real way. When we do our alligator snapper trapping, one time a year, we have Valdosta State College come out and we have the students help us check traps. And I make sure that every student picks up a turtle and holds them. And some of these kids have never seen, a wild turtle of any kind in their whole life. So, you're making a moment for them that's, going to last forever. And when they touch it and they feel it, just like when people touch a snake for the first time, most people are kind of almost like relieved when they touch a snake to find that the
I've
snake
said
is
this,
calm,
yeah, so
that it's
many
not
times.
slimy.
I've said that when people are terrified of snakes and they're like, "Is it going to bite me? Is it this?" Is it? The first things that people always say, "Oh, it's not slimy. Oh,
Yeah,
it's really chill." Like, and
yeah,
I say the success rate with snakes, like obviously a chill snake, within context, the success rate with snakes and people that are scared of them is just 100%. Like, I've never had
yeah,
anyone after I've introduced them to a snake be scared of them anymore. And yeah,
yeah.
they're so misunderstood. I often refer to snappers as like the snakes of the turtle world because they're kind of, the ones with the biggest misconceptions.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of, I mean, really just kind of like made up crap, surrounding them. And, sometimes I go to in-person events and I really have to like find nice ways of correcting
Yeah,
some of that, stuff that people, a lot of times people grew up with. Like maybe their parents told them, something and their parents told them, so you got generations
yeah,
of really
just
just,
misinformation. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
another reason why it's important for me never to, judge and always approach people in just a friendly, non-aggressive kind of
yeah,
attitude, because it's not their fault if they don't know any different. It's just what they've been told, and you'll believe it. If you're a kid and an adult tells you it's going to take your finger off and don't go near it, then you're obviously going to believe that, and you're going to grow up with that information thinking that it's true. Most of the time, that's how people end up with the information. It can get repetitive, but then you've just got to kind of think to yourself, this is your opportunity to help them and help them understand what they're actually like. I wish I could kind of just put up a big hologram that the world could see and just just be like, snakes are kind, crocodiles probably aren't going to eat you, and snappers will probably leave you alone. Any reach is good enough reach. I always say one is better than not helping one
right,
at the
yeah.
end of
And,
the day.
it's making it relatable and not coming across like,
Patronizing, or
not to be
yeah.
like yeah, you don't want to like, I don't go and I don't just like belt out scientific names at people. I use common names. I try to make it as lay person friendly, because most of the time when I'm talking to a group of people, there may be one person in there that knows, scientific names or really any background. I'm trying to talk to the people that don't know anything. And, that's who I want to reach, is the person that maybe has never helped a turtle across a road before, or found one nesting before, or catches one fishing. And so I try to, put some humor in there. I think that, what do they say? A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, or something like that. So I
Yeah,
try to make it like a little funny and friendly. And, you know, I know how, like when I was a kid, and if some adult was trying to correct me or talk at me with something like that, I would just be like, whatever, man. So
yeah,
I'm just trying to find a common ground, and usually
no pun
after I
intended.
do a show or a birthday, I end up, while I'm packing up and stuff, I usually have a lot of people will kind of come up to me, and they all have a story of seeing a turtle cross a road or lay eggs, or they caught one fishing. And so I have a chance usually after I do one to have some kind of back and forth time with each individual,
Yeah,
and and that's neat too, because now you're actually really reaching, people on a level like that. And when people get new information, especially if it's something that contradicts everything they knew before, usually
yeah.
they're kind of like excited about it. And they'll kind of like, then they'll go tell somebody.
You brought up so many subjects that I want to talk about, and I'm like, my ADHD brain is just like, I have nowhere to write it down. But hopefully together we can remember. Main things are what to do when you find one fishing, and how to be responsible about cleaning up after fishing. What to do if you find a turtle sort of nesting or laying their eggs, or they've chosen to do it in an area that's your garden, or somewhere which you frequent often. The third one was something, and I can't remember what it was. Oh yes, how to help them across the road, do's and don'ts, because we mentioned it briefly as well. you shouldn't grab them by the tail. It could do them a lot of damage. I don't know which one you want to start with.
We'll start with nesting. If it's nesting in your yard and, or you find a nest and maybe it's on the side of a road or something, typically my advice is going to be to just, even if it's by a roadside, to leave the eggs where they are. I don't like to mess with or break the chamber. So they're going to build a flask-shaped nest, and then when the female covers it, she usually is going to like urinate on it or something. And what that does is that creates a seal for that chamber. And so those eggs have their own little microclimate inside there. And I don't really like to break that. Some people will find a nest and dig it up and count the eggs and then put them back. But I really don't like to, I feel like in my opinion, once a nest is laid and those eggs are kind of all stacked and that chamber gets closed by the female, I feel like that's pretty much set. The way that it, naturally should.
Sorry, my mum was trying to read, and I'm just sort of subtly just going, I'm filming. If you saw me looking down, I wasn't being, I wasn't being rude. But yeah, I've seen people online that have, put up little fences around where they've laid them just so people.
I would. So typically what I would do is if it's on your property or somewhere where you have the ability to put up a wire, nest cover, you can just take a piece of wire and you cut it and you make like a circle, right? So that's your perimeter around it. Then you take another piece of wire and then you cover it around that circle. And then you just zip tie it all together. And now you've got like a little wire cover, protects it from predators, protects it from anything messing with it. And you can put like a little orange flag or something near there so you can mark it as a nest. The other thing is also just leave it alone. But, for the most part, you don't want to. Yeah, and if you see the female actively nesting, you don't want to disturb her while she's in the middle of that. Some turtles will kind of get into, some people call it like a trance, where they're fully locked in and they're laying eggs and nothing's going to mess with them. And then some like, female alligator snappers, typically, if they see anything when they're nesting, they'll just bail.
And it takes them a long time to choose. It has to be perfect for them to want to lay their eggs. If you disturb that and they end up running away, and respect them, protect them as much as you can.
Sometimes it takes the female a long time to select a nest site too. So like, if you just go walking.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah, you don't know, like it might have taken her days to figure out. And then for fishing, fishing is one that comes up a lot, especially with things like alligator snappers and your more carnivorous turtles or opportunistic.
With any wildlife, fishing can be, I've seen wildlife rescue places on Instagram. Someone didn't clean up after fishing and, they left a hook out and a bird swallowed it. If you're going to take the time, you're obviously patient. You've got time, if you can sit down and fish, to pick up after yourself.
I think there's just a lot of personal responsibility with fishing. If you're going to go fishing, then you need to bring like, a trash bag or something, pick up your trash. Don't leave here in the South, people fish with chicken livers for catfish, and they'll leave the little bowl of those livers sitting out, and it's a little plastic bowl. So it's all that right away is just lame. And then sometimes that attracts predators, and now you've attracted, predators and scavengers to the edge of the river, and, they may end up finding turtle nests that they normally wouldn't because they were attracted by all your fishing garbage.
It has a knock-on effect.
Or like cutting fishing line and leaving it there. Sometimes you find these big wads of, monofilament, and people just leave it there. So I think if you're going to go fishing, you need to follow up with the general responsibility of doing it. I think another part of it is going fishing with proper tools with you, having a set of like needle nose pliers in case you do hook something that's either not something you want to hook, or you just want to be able to remove a hook from a fish you caught. So with turtles, a lot of people will catch them and then just hold it up, cut the line, and let the turtle go. Now the turtle's got a hook in its mouth, and it's got who knows how much fishing line that can actually get caught, in the throat or in the digestive system. So I recommend people, needle nose pliers, be as careful as possible. If you can get the hook out, if you can't, then, reach out to, here in the US, reach out to like a state agency, like a Department of Natural Resources or Fish and Game, and see if they have an officer or somebody that can come help. There's a lot of things I would rather people do before they just cut a line and throw it back. It's kind of just sets the turtle up for potentially, having complications. We take a metal detector and scan all the turtles that we catch, for hooks. And with the alligator snappers, we've had pretty good luck with taking the pliers, and then if they're trying to bite, which, you know, you're messing around with their mouth, they're going to try and bite. I'll put like a block of wood, or you can even take like one of those like rubber Crocs shoes and stick that in there. Because all you need is them to open their mouth and create a gap. And then if they're biting down on something, they're not biting you, and you can kind of work the hook out. It's not fun. It's not pretty. It's usually pretty bloody, but I would rather the turtle, you know, have some discomfort for a little bit and bleed than, you know, potentially
and ultimately,
die.
be safe. Then, no, because if that's stuck inside of it, that's just going to have grave consequences. It's habit, isn't it? People just do it out of habit and don't think about it, or don't consider it, or don't care. It's something that if more people talk about it, then it will be more common knowledge. There's people that you can reach out to that can help. I always say, if someone wants to help a snapper across the road but doesn't quite know what to do, you don't have to pick it up. You can get something to safely encourage it to move across in the same direction that it's facing. We're not saying help them cross the road and expect you to pick one up, because they're intimidating if you don't know their temperament and you think it's going to bite you. I wouldn't expect anyone. I don't think anyone would kind of just be like, yeah, I'll just pick it up. And when they do, they usually go for the tail. Help them, because they don't know it's a road. They're not doing it. They're not sitting in the middle of the road going, ha, humans, you suck. You know, I'm going to do this just to inconvenience you. You know, it's they're just don't know what to do. It's just important to talk about these things. There's so many people that will make a video about it, and then it will, you know, go viral, semi-viral, or get loads of views, and they're not approaching the situation in the correct way, which again spreads misinformation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I would, with turtles crossing the road, always put them in the direction they're headed. But also, if you don't know turtle species, then don't assume every turtle is a water turtle, because there's videos of people finding a gopher tortoise and they go throw it in like a canal. You know, it's so you know, don't assume, you know, if you don't know, but just, you know, direction they're headed. That's like usually the best case scenario, is just you're just helping kind of keep them out of the road part and get them to where they want to be.
They know their instincts are good. They know where they need to go. And there's loads of apps. You can even just Google your state and the turtles, tortoises. A lot of people don't even know the difference between turtles and tortoises. If you don't know the differences, then you don't know what they require. And a turtle needs water, and a tortoise also needs water, but not in the same way. You don't want to, as you said, be throwing one into a body of water. But that's why we're here, to help and teach. Save the turtles. Oh, this is a good one. Oh wait, no, we didn't.
We talked about fishing, crossing the road.
Oh yeah,
nesting.
Fish. Yeah. Oh no, we did, didn't we? Yeah. Okay. Don't worry. There's just me going full ADHD. Tell us about the role that turtles play in their ecosystem, and why should we care about their conservation and preservation?
Yeah, I mean, all different turtles have different roles in their ecosystem. You know, like you look at, you know, a great example is like gopher tortoises. You know, they're called a keystone species because they make burrows that house, you know, not just the gopher tortoise, but eastern indigo snakes, eastern diamondback rattlesnakes. There's literally a frog called, you know, the gopher frog, and they use those same burrows. I mean, all the way down to things like, you know, there's robber flies, you know, these little flies that evolved just to be in gopher tortoise burrows. And, you know, those burrows that they make are so essential to those habitats and those ecosystems that without the gopher tortoises, you know, potentially the ecosystem and everything in it would almost like fall apart. And it's like that with, you know, aquatic turtles. You know, a lot of even alligator snapping turtles can act as like seed dispersers. So in the fall, you get a lot of fruits and stuff like that falling into, you know, the river, and they eat the fruit, and then they pass, you know, the seeds, and it helps those seeds get down the river. They also do things like, you know, they'll dig into a bank, and eventually they dig into a bank long enough, a tree falls over, and now that tree fell over, and now you've got cover for fish, you've got logs for other turtles to bask on. It creates, you know, a place for maybe some underwater vegetation to attach to and grow to. So, I mean, you look at any turtle species, and especially since they're, you know, generally most turtles are long lived, everything they do can kind of benefit the ecosystem that they're in like a major way. And that's why, like, you know, when you lose adult turtles from an ecosystem, it can potentially be, you know, pretty damaging, especially with, you know, like I said, things like gopher tortoises and stuff that are a keystone species. They're just, each turtle can almost be almost like a specialist, you know. Even the turtles that are considered generalists usually play like some kind of key role, you know, in the environment they're in.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I think, just don't realize that and underestimate them, their impact that they have and how important they are. The question's kind of broad, and it's hard
Right.
to answer without going through exactly every single one. We should do a drinking game. I mean, I don't drink, but every time I say that we should respect them, every time I say how important they are, and yeah, how interesting they are. The Alex and All Her Animals drinking game. It's frustrating in a way that it's not common knowledge. So many people would have such a different attitude, and I think respect them a lot more if they were aware of it.
When I talk to fishermen, you know, especially when I'm talking to them about the risk of, you know, hook ingestion and removing hooks, I also point out, you know, a lot of fishermen, they don't like snapping turtles. They don't like catching them. They don't like, you know, they have this idea in their head that they eat all the fish, which is definitely not the case, because, you know, then there wouldn't be any fish. So I always point out to them that, you know, what they're eating, especially, you know, when these guys are fishing, they're fishing for like game fish. They're fishing for things like bass and brim and crappie and, you know, these fish that generally are going to get away from a turtle. You know, one of those fish has to be, you know, sick or injured for a turtle to get it. And so the turtles, by removing those sick and injured fish, are helping the healthy fish survive. If you didn't have turtles, you know, picking those off, you might have disease spread through a population of fish. And now you are going to lose, you know, those fish that you want to catch because there were no turtles there to kind of help balance that ecosystem. So I try to reach out and let people know that. And
once you tell them, like the fishermen, how many people just go, "Oh, I didn't know that."
Yeah, I usually point out too that they think that snapping turtles are eating exclusively fish. And I'm like, well, they actually eat, you know, and I tell them they eat everything from like acorns and fruit, and aquatic plants and snails. And, you know,
it's not
fish
just
are like
fish.
actually a small part of the diet and not the entirety of it. And that usually kind of relieves them a little bit. And like, you know, usually if you're not seeing fish or you're not catching fish, you know, like I tell them, like, don't take it personal. It's probably something you're doing. Like maybe you're fishing during a hot part of the day, or maybe you're just not in the right area. You know, if you're not underwater, you can't see where the fish are.
I just have this vision in my head of you going, "You're just a crappy fisherman," which I know you wouldn't say.
That too. Yeah,
I know you probably wouldn't say, because that's not going to get through to anyone. But it made me laugh just imagining that. They'll tell their fisherman friends, because if you're a fisherman, you're going to have fisherman friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Spreads the information, and you're doing good. You're doing the right thing and approaching it in the right way, and it's really great. What advice would you give to someone that's interested in pursuing a career in wildlife conservation, particularly with reptiles or turtles?
It's funny because I didn't set out to have a quote unquote like career in this.
Career's not really the right word, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean it is the right word in a way, in that like I see myself doing what I'm doing now continuous, you know, and well until I, you know, probably physically can't do it. But I think the best thing to do, and I get asked this a lot, is just start just doing it in your free time. You know, whether that's just the simple act of going herping and hiking and looking for things and keeping, you know, maybe records of what you find. And if you find something, you know, like if you're in the US and you have, you know, like we talked about earlier, like a state agency or something like that, and you're like, hey, I found this protected species, you just pass along that info. Anything you do and you invest yourself and your time in it, and you're going to get good at it. And then when you get good at things, somebody's going to notice. And, you know, as long as you're friendly, you know, and you know how to, like, you know, interact with people, and you're not a psychopath, I mean, people will get to know you, and, you know, you'll end up networking and meeting different people. And then, you know, I think this is my advice, you know, without going to college for it, is basically what I'm saying. So you can do it that way. And then you can also go to school for it. You can take the academic route, And you find a school that has a biology program, maybe a herpetology program if you're really into reptiles, and you get out, you do some field work, you do some labs. Maybe you find a local group that you can get an internship with, and you do an internship in the summer surveying stuff. I mean, if you want it more than anything, you make it more important than anything, right? So like, it's I
will
tell
it
people the
into
same thing.
existence. That's what Dan would say, wouldn't he? He would
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
will
I
it
mean,
into
it's
existence. Yeah.
more than anything to be a wildlife biologist or conservationist, or if you want more than anything to work with, Indian soft shells, right? And you're in the US, then you have to live it and breathe it every single day. You read every bit of material there is on it, you read every paper on it, you absorb yourself into the photos, video, all the media of it, and you go and you join groups and meet people that maybe work with them. Even if they work with them in captivity, now you get a chance to see that turtle hands on,
Yeah.
and you can talk with them. And then eventually, if it matters more to you than anything else, you're going to get there. I've just found that I mean, we could be talking about skateboarding. If you want to be a professional skateboarder, you live it, you breathe it, you make it more important than buying cars or expensive watches, or if you make something more important than anything, you will get there. And so I think if that's what you want in wildlife conservation, then just get out there, like find, you mentioned where you're at, you've got hedgehogs. You don't have do you guys even have European pond turtles in England?
Yes and no. Natively, no. It's a very common thing, again, no pun intended, common, for people to release
Yeah.
turtles into the wild here. Turtle Tally, they do a lot of work trying to survey the turtles that people come across in ponds, or I know there's in a larger town near me, there's a park. Anytime anyone I know goes, they always go, look at the turtles.
Yeah.
There's usually sliders in there, and the red-headed sliders are illegal here now unless you've owned them before a particular year. So they're very hard to rehome, because you can't just go, I want to rehome my turtle and anyone can take it. That's another problem. A lot of places rescues won't take turtles generally.
Yeah.
They're very, very hard to find new homes.
Yeah, so to my point, to answer the question, you could be in England where you guys don't really have like native turtles, but you do have populations, even if they're introduced. You could go find, somebody you can work with that's monitoring, how big the populations are, what species are introduced
Turtle
and
Tally.
making up this. And so you can use that to create a backbone of work that you can use to maybe, get an internship somewhere in the, maybe the US or somewhere in, Asia or another part of Europe where maybe there are native, European ponds or something like that. So there's always a way for everything. So it's just, in the beginning, you're just trying to build your hours, essentially. You're just trying to build your experience and create a backbone for the rest of your work to kind of build off of.
Yeah. And I'll just say, if anybody in the UK comes across any turtles in the wild, please visit Turtle Tally. Just Google them. Their website should come up. They collect as much data as they can, any turtles. If you could spare the time just to report that to them for their statistics, that would be a really, really great thing to do. And I really encourage doing it, because it does make a big difference. It's important for us to know where these turtles are. Keep record. There's so much to it. How many are reproducing successfully, because it can get really cold here as well. So they've obviously got no heat. It's very important to have all the data. People just don't realize how important it is to keep an eye on this, and most people probably just think, oh, it's a turtle in a park, that's nice, snap a picture of it or whatever, and then don't realize that there are organizations that are keeping an eye on it and how useful the data and everything is. Shout out to Turtle Tally, doing good work. Sorry, I just blah, blah, blah. It was like that with Dan. It was really funny, because he was just like, he's so like, I don't even know how to explain it. You know what I mean, obviously.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
It's just like, bam, and then
yeah.
at the end he was just kind of like, I'm done now. And he
Yeah.
was just like, just chill. He's just like, I'm done now. Yes, I've got it all out. I've got it all out. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, the first I sent you the video, the first thing he did was just go, mother.
Yeah.
Mother. No.
Oh, it was so funny. The way he laughs after it as well. I love that video.
He helped build a pond at my house, and it was just like 3 or 4 days of just madness. We were all just crazy. I mean, if you can imagine, it was so funny.
I love it. I can't wait. I can't wait to visit you all in person. And there's one thing to chat. It's chatting just online through messaging, and then once you talk sort of face to face with this person, you like solidify that friendship. It's really nice just to know that we've all got the same goal. We just want to help the animals and help educate people and do what we can. It's nice. And yeah, a lot of people know. We were saying, like, Chris Leone was asking you for some advice about his snapper because she was laying eggs in the water.
We've taken eggs we've found in the water and just, we bury them about 8 inches underground and tell them good luck. If it happens in captivity, like, I check on my turtles, every few hours. So, if I get eggs in the water, they haven't been there that long. I have some incubating right now that were actually laid in the water. If you pull them out of the water and they still feel mucusy, like real slick, they just came out, and then they're probably going to be okay. If they're in the water and they feel like super, super tight, they probably absorbed a lot of water and they're probably not going to hatch. I'll still, like any egg I find, I still will try to incubate, just on the chance that they're going to hatch.
I was going to say, what are the main reasons why typically new mothers end up laying their eggs in water rather than where they would usually? They must have the instinct.
Yeah, the instinct is pretty much baked in. I think that it can be just nest selection site isn't checking a box that they need it to. It could be, it could be that. It could be they're not able to nest, or they're not able in a captive situation, maybe they're not able to get out of the water. It could be they're trying to lay, but they're not coming out when they're on land. And for whatever reason, they're coming out when they're in the water. Sometimes when I had this past summer, my female kept making nests and doing small amounts of eggs in the nest. Like, she would lay for a little bit and then, and then go back. And then I would feed her, because she would go to lay and then sometimes nothing would come out. So I would feed her. And my goal was to create less space for those eggs, which should help push them out. And so I would give her like a big meal. And then some eggs would, during the day, dribble out into the pond. And I would grab them. And then at night she would go, lay the rest on land. So
yeah,
some of it's still a mystery. I mean, sometimes it happens and we don't even really know why.
Yeah. To mess with us, just
yeah,
it would be. Could you imagine if we could talk to them like we talk to each other? It would make a lot of rescues easier, because just say to them, look, I'm trying to help you, mate. Just I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to, especially getting hooks out their mouths. I think that would make life a little bit easier.
If we could talk to them, we'd find out how dumb we are.
Yeah, same with a lot of animals. I think. A lot of us would feel, not everyone, of course, but I don't think the people who do feel it would feel as superior and top of the food chainy kind of attitude towards, humans versus animals. Go away, chinchilla. It's very distracting. What animals do you have at the moment? So, because you did mention bringing different types of animals to educational or birthday parties and that kind of thing.
So I've got 200 different turtles and tortoises. So I've got, like things like sliders, cooters, painted turtles, map turtles, mud turtles, musk turtles, obviously alligator snappers, common snappers. I have 3 hybrid snappers. I've got pink-bellied side necks. I've got
love them.
I've got red-footed tortoises, yellowfoot tortoise, Asian mountain tortoise, sulcata tortoise, Herman's tortoise, Florida soft shells.
I love them.
And then eastern box turtle.
You know how much I love. I think I've told you that before. How much I like the soft shells. And I think did I send you that picture that my sister sent me?
Oh wait, I think you did, because I think it was a Florida soft shell. And I was like, how did she?
Yeah,
see
and
that?
it was splooting. At
Yeah.
Gatorland.
That's cool.
And it was, I love them. It's because I fostered one for a while, and the absolute best soft shell ever. It wasn't how that's another thing I bring up. I think probably every episode is she was just. I wish I could have kept her. Continue. Tell us the other animals that you have.
See, I think I left off at the box turtles. I've got three-toed box turtles, Florida box turtles, Gulf Coast box turtles, and an Eastern box turtle. I think that covers it on the turtles. And then I've got some snakes. Got a pine snake, 2 bull snakes, a Florida king snake. And I also have alligators on my permit. I'm still waiting to get my actual alligator for the shows and stuff. My buddy Jason also does education. He has a bunch of alligators, so I usually will borrow his. And when I get my own alligator, it obviously like has its own setup and everything. And where I'm at in Georgia, there's a permit system, so I have an educator's permit, so I'm able to have basically a whole bunch of stuff. And you pass an inspection, and you have like a certain amount of hours and stuff like that. But the neat thing is when you're permitted, you're able to take things in. So sometimes, something gets confiscated or somebody surrenders something. And, I'm essentially the state's turtle guy at this point. So I end up with like a lot of stuff. But yeah, I try to have kind of a variety of things. And then there's a lot of things that live in my yard. Like there's a lot of different frogs that live in my yard because of all the ponds and stuff. And,
I love frogs.
those just chose to live here. I have like a water snake that comes in and out.
Yeah.
So it's neat. I get to kind of have a lot of stuff around all the time. And like, yeah, it's neat to have like a variety and kind of see the different things. And I've always enjoyed snakes. So they're great.
Yeah, snakes are cool. They're so underrated species. Like so underrated. I say to every single guest, I'm like, if I could jump on a plane right now, I literally would. I just want to visit and hang out and help and herp, and I'll get there. I will get there. It's just right now it's all about the education, focus on the podcast and do what I can while I'm here. And and I'll make it there. I'll make it there eventually, but it doesn't make it less frustrating.
Yeah, just keep knocking out the podcasts and do a bunch of them and build a following, and then come out to the US in like the spring.
So many people have been so kind and taking their time, because an hour or so, I mean, we were chatting for about 20 minutes before this anyway. That's like an hour and a half of your time. A lot of people have busy schedules and responsibilities, and so every single guest has just been, obviously including yourself, it's just an honor, and I can't express like how much I appreciate for you to use this as I know it's sort of a win-win, because you get to talk about what you love and sing my little is it back song, to make sure you did hear that part, because it is important to make sure that people know how much I do appreciate it. Even the people that I've spoken to directly, the Australians or you, or just so many people, that you're not going to lose anything. Worst thing you're going to get is no. And I genuinely mean it when I say, if you're not interested, then there's no hard feeling. Completely respect your schedule, or it's just not something. Some people don't want to do podcasts.
It's not every day I get to talk to somebody from the UK, and it's maybe there's people that are going to listen to this that are on like where you're from, and they have no clue who I am, and so it like kind of gives them a chance to kind of find out about what I'm doing and the stuff that I work with, and maybe opens up their interest to the things that I do. So yeah, it's like I enjoy it.
Giving a platform for to learn about things, and because there's so many different types of the conservation preservation focused on Anthony. Most of that is just us. The opening is him reading my intro in a British accent, which is just hilarious. And we were just talking about it's really funny. Dan going off on 10,000 tangents and ending up me peer pressuring him into tangents. It was literally when he brought up the shrimp stew, I said to him, obviously we'll see it when the episode is released, I go, put it on now, I need to see this now. Like, you didn't see that part of just the preview, but his reaction is it's just, and birds made a home in it.
And birds made a home in it.
I left it outside, and birds.
I left it outside for 2 days after the music video was done, and birds made a nest in the thing.
Just I love it. It's the same wavelength. This is our last question. I don't know how relevant it is, but I thought I'd chuck it in anyway. So are there any recent research findings or exciting projects that you're currently working on that you want to share with us?
Let's see. So some of that stuff, if it's recent and it's research stuff, sometimes you can't, because I work with, several colleagues, and usually you can't really discuss a lot of that stuff outside of once it's published. We have a few things, and obviously our mark recapture, our data from our Sawaniensis project will be out, maybe next year. But we are seeing really neat things with growth. We're seeing that they're growing at a certain rate. One of the bigger things that I actually really like to share with people, especially with alligator snappers in captivity, is a lot of people think that they just sit in one place all day and never really move, and that actually couldn't be further from the truth. A lot of our turtles are not only moving sometimes pretty good distances just to get in the trap for food, but we're recapturing them sometimes several kilometers from where we trapped them before. So it looks like maybe females are moving a distance every year to nest. Males, it seems like they have actually fairly sizable territories depending on population density and depending on food availability and the size of the habitat. I was a part of a project on alligator snapping turtles that were introduced in an area of peninsular Florida that's further down. And it's looking like they were potentially introduced. But one of the neat things there was same thing again. We would catch a turtle by hand one day at one end of this stretch of a stream, and they would come back the next day and catch that same turtle at the complete opposite end of that stream. So in 24 hours, that turtle had moved, over a mile. So they actually move a lot. The people get this idea that they're not doing anything because during the day when people are looking at them, or, maybe they're working at a zoo or an aquarium and they're there on the day shift, they're not moving. But at night they're moving a lot, and they're, very active. And there's people in Texas that are getting these observations of them doing things like basking, and also a lot of daytime activity in places like, Louisiana and Texas. So to me, that's exciting. And it's kind of one of the reasons I do what I do, is because I can actually go and talk to people that, don't get to work with them in the wild, but maybe they work with them in captivity. And it's like, maybe some of the stuff that I see and do can filter down to improving the lives of captives. And then I'm trying to think, I also, we caught a turtle during I was working on a television show in July, and we caught a turtle and marked it and released it. And that one would be the first one of potentially starting a new, it's another stream that's part of the Suwannee River system, but it's another one farther over that I hadn't previously marked anything. And then I'm also working on alligator snapping turtles near Atlanta. So that's really high up the Flint River system. And, I'm catching a lot of turtles. I had one that went super viral on TikTok. It was like a 94 pounder and went to like 15 million views in just a few days.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot of that stuff, and then just, continuing to work on the YouTube channel, continuing to get more, because of the stuff going viral on TikTok and Instagram, like my Instagram, when some of those videos went viral on there, I went from like 7,000 followers to I'm at 26, 27. I don't know. I haven't looked, but like that jumped my Instagram up. And, and then the same thing, the TikTok did the same thing. So now I'm like, oh, okay. Like to me, I thought TikTok was lame. I hate the name and everything, but now I'm like, oh, okay, I need to start uploading more to it. And
if you're a creator.
And now I'm like, okay, well, I do have the ability to reach a larger audience across more platforms than just YouTube. So that's something that I'm excited to do, is just putting out more stuff and hopefully getting back into like doing some more traveling.
It's awesome content as well.
Yeah. And now, like, I'm getting out with I've got all these friends, like my friend Noah does MKF herping and he does a channel, and then, getting out with Christian, like Christian, is this
Yeah, I was
huge,
saying, yeah, everyone knows.
bundle of
Yeah.
positive energy. So yeah,
He seems
it's
like, oh
neat.
yeah, he seems like such a cool guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's cool. He gets a lot of clips that go viral, and I know that like when all mine, the ones that I had that went viral, you don't even really see like comments, like, and I think when you get requests while something's going viral, it just automatically gets sent to almost like a junk folder. But yeah, it was really weird because
Yeah, I know what you mean.
you're getting like, like when you have something hit over 1 million views or something, you're getting just thousands of likes and, hundreds of comments. So you're just like, for me, it stresses me out. I'm like, I can't even look at it,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, after I finished with Dan, he was like, this is what I mean, and then just like shows me his phone, and it's just
Yeah.
like notifications. That's why I thought it would be good to catch the view on the live. I had you on the laptop and I had him on my phone. You're on your phone at that time, and if there's not too many messages, then you can sort of get in there and show that you are just a genuine person. It's good that a lot of people know each other, because then I can just be like, would you mind?
Well, that's like, I was talking about
just
that
say
earlier.
no. Yeah.
Is it's really easy once you kind of get your foot in the door to be able to kind of network with everybody. And I have, like you've talked about ADHD. I didn't figure out that what I thought was wrong with me. I didn't know what it was until, I was older, and I took like these ADHD
There's nothing
tests.
wrong with you. It's just a part of you.
Yeah. It's just, there's so much just constantly going on in here. Like this never shuts off, even when I go to bed, it just never shuts off. So like for me with the notifications and stuff, my phone, I have every notification turned off on my phone. And I also keep my phone permanently on do not disturb because I can't handle it.
Yeah. And then I have favorite contacts for like my family and my very close friends.
Yeah.
So that goes. I don't know if you do the same, get rid of every single notification.
Dude, like the little red circle pops up. Yeah, that little red circle pops up, and it's
when people have like thousands or just hundreds.
Well, so dude, mine is
unread
It
emails.
kills me, but dude, mine is so bad. Let me see what mine is. Mine is so bad. It's like there's nothing I can do about it at this point. Let's see. Oh, but I turned the red thing off, so I can't see the actual number, because the actual number was like 40,000 unread emails. Yeah, and it's just because everybody gets you anything you do, and I don't know, maybe it's different in the UK, but here in the US, you can't go to a store, you can't go to get a smoothie without them asking for your phone number or email. And so like, if you even do that for a little bit in the beginning, it's like your email is just blown up. And then I can't deal with passwords. So like the idea of starting another email that has like less emails in it, it's like, well, now I've got to remember a password. And it's like, dude, I'm just so maxed out on.
I have it all on the same app, the Alex and All Her Animals email, and then like the Reptile Rendezvous email, and then like my personal email. I have it all on the same.
Yeah, I have 4 emails, and like then having 4 emails stresses me out,
Yeah,
so
because, but everything, you want to keep everything separate because it's that organization and like OCD that you need to have everything separate, but it will ultimately stress you out slightly less, so you just go for that instead. But I think we're very similar like that. Where can our listeners find you online? I know you did just briefly go over it, but where can we get you?
It's Greg's Turtle Haven.
Not on email.
Pretty much every platform. I mean, Greg's Turtle Haven Instagram, Greg's Turtle Haven YouTube, Greg's Turtle Haven TikTok. I even have a Facebook, Greg's Turtle Haven. You can find me on there as well. And I try to do my best to try and post once a week. In the beginning, I was doing 3 times a week, but that was just stressing me out. It was getting like really hard to do. So I shoot for like once a week. I'll also post up, like short form content, like to, TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. I'll try to post up, maybe more than once a week, just different stuff. Could be turtles, could be tortoises, could be alligator snappers, could be snakes, could be, some stuff in my backyard, or I could be out in the middle of a river somewhere. So I try my best to try and take people.
I like that it varies so much.
Yeah. And I just try to take the viewer along for the ride. I try to treat the person watching like they're just one of my buddies, like they're just, they're in the car along for the ride, or they're on the hike with me, and just make it friendly and fun. And sometimes funny. So, I just want people to watch it and enjoy it, and maybe walk away with something they didn't know.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about or mention?
I don't know.
You don't have to. It's
I'm
literally
short
just
on
giving you
sleep,
the
so
opportunity.
yeah, I'm short on sleep, so I'm not really. I mean, I've kind of covered everything I do and everything I work on. So
it's always good just to give the guests the opportunity to if they've thought of something while we're talking.
I wish I had some cool agenda or something, but I don't.
No, that's fine. Cool. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review, especially as this is a very new podcast. So all the listens, all the comments, all the likes, everything means the absolute world to me. Thank you for supporting. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and let's make the world a better place for all creatures, big and small. And don't forget to stay wild. Greg, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
See you all next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.